a video yesterday on when to file for retirement benefits, whether to do it 62 or 67 or 70. So we talked about that today. And so let's do the other part of this in terms of spouse benefits. So before I get to the live Q&A, got a lot of questions already. Let's go ahead and go down through the list and answer all your questions on all things Social Security spouse benefits. If you're watching this in a recording later, make sure you subscribe and like and share and all that kind of good stuff. And that way you can find us in the future if you ever do, or you or your friends or family ever have a question about survivor benefits or spouse benefits or retirement or disability or Medicare or Medicaid, then you know where to find us again. Okay, let's go down the list here. So one of the big mistakes people seem to think, and unfortunately, a lot of people at the Social Security Administration, particularly the people at the front windows, they're not experts in, they're generalists. The people at the front windows, the customer service representatives, sometimes they know how to do it. The calculations are done, sometimes not. People out on social media, all the people out there calling themselves Social Security experts, almost all don't know this. So let's clear the air. All right. So you have heard that if you collect spouse benefits, you can collect 50% of your spouse's benefit. And when I say that, I always say you can collect up to 50% of your spouse's benefit, because it always depends on when you retire. Okay, so I'm going to throw out, and it's also a difference between what's called the PIA and the MBA. Here's what a lot of people make a mistake in. So I've got a little example here, and then once we get through this is part of the split strategy where the lower earning spouse starts their benefits, and then the higher earning spouse continues to work or whatever, and then delays retiring, delays starting their benefits. That's called a split strategy. And it's a good strategy for a lot of people. But if you do the calculations wrong, or if you understand the program wrong, then you're going to be losing benefits the rest of your life. And so let's make sure that doesn't happen. Okay, so here's an example. Full retirement age. If you are the spouse and your higher earning spouse is collecting benefits, and the higher earning spouse's benefit amount, full benefit amount, called the PIA, that's the benefit at the full retirement age, is $3,000. That means you're eligible for half, because you are your full retirement age, $1,500. So it's not reduced if you start collecting it at full retirement age. If you start early, then it is reduced. Okay, but so that's most people understand that, but they don't understand the offset on their own benefits. So basically, if you start collecting your benefits at full retirement age, and we're looking at you're eligible for $1,500 total, and you are already receiving $1,000 on your own record. So you're receiving $1,000 on your own record. You're eligible for $1,500 on your spouse's record. So they don't give you $1,000 plus $1,500, so you get $2,500. No, I'm sure everybody wished that's the way it would work, but it doesn't work that way. Your benefit offsets what you would receive from your spouse. So if you're eligible for $1,500, they subtract the $1,000 you're already receiving and then give you the difference, $500. So you're going to get $1,500. So you are getting 50% because full retirement age. Okay. Here's where people make the mistake. If you start your benefits early, your benefits are reduced. So let's say you start your benefit, you're supposed to get $1,000. You start early, so you get $800. And that's where people mess up, because there's a difference between what's called the PIA, your full benefit amount, and how much you actually receive. So you're not going to get $1,500 in this case. You're going to get $1,300, because you're eligible for $500. If you waited till your full retirement age, you're eligible for $500, because they take the $1,500 minus the $1,000. Even though you started receiving benefits early, yeah, you're going to get the full reduction. So you're getting $800, plus you're eligible for $500 from that person's record. So you're going to get a total of $1,300 for the rest of your life, because you started your benefits early. You're not going to people think, well, I'll just go ahead and start my benefits early. And then when my higher earning spouse retires, I'll get up 50%. Yes. Minus your full benefit amount, not minus what you're currently receiving. So that's what a lot of people miss, and they're shocked when they get their first check after they start their spouse benefits. Okay. All right. And so this is the difference between the PIA and the MBA. And then when you go into Social Security and you file for the benefits, and if you want the exact calculations based on you and your spouse's, benefit amount, then you just ask them and says, hey, here's how you do it. And say, okay, if I start my benefits this month, how much am I going to get? If I wait till next year, how much am I going to get total? And then you can make a better decision, and you'll have the exact numbers based on your particular situation. Or you can go to my website, mygovexpert.com, and in the family section there, spouse benefits, I've got a little calculator, a free calculator. You can figure out the calculations 100% free. I got a whole bunch of calculators there. Use them, share them, and all the rest of it. Okay, so what about survivor benefits, surviving spouse benefits? Here's another thing that people mess up. So if your benefits are reduced because you start your benefits early, they're always going to be reduced. But in terms of survivor benefits, let's say you start your spouse benefits and your current spouse is still out there alive and kicking, and you're reduced because you started before your full retirement age. When your spouse passes away, when you started your spouse benefits doesn't matter anymore. Doesn't matter. You could have started at 62. And if it depends on how old you are when your spouse passes, that's the issue. So if you start your benefits at 62, you're going to get 30% reduction, and that's going to offset, the spouse benefits. But then when you turn 67 years old or later, your full retirement age, then that's how they calculate survivor benefits. So you could be reduced, and then 67 and beyond, you're no longer reduced for survivor benefits. So a lot of people mess up those calculations. And if you've got particular examples or anything like that, if you've got any questions, make sure you ask them in the chat there. Okay, so this is for current spouse, divorced spouse. You are eligible as a spouse on someone else's record as a divorced spouse. You had to be married to the person for at least 10 years. And a lot of people out there, so please share, like, subscribe, because a lot of people out there are missing this. They think, oh, yes, I was married to this person, 30 years ago, and I was married for 10 years, but I have since got remarried. Okay. Are you currently still married? Oh, no, I've gotten divorced. Well, then that doesn't matter anymore. You have a first X and then a second X or a third X or a fourth X or whatever the case may be. You can collect benefits on any one of those records. The highest, always preferably, as long as you meet the duration, the eligibility requirements. You were married to that person for 10 years. So I've done this a few 100,000 times. When I worked at Social Security, someone come in and said, I want to file for I want to file for retirement benefits. And I said, okay, were you ever married? Yeah, I was married 4 times. Any of those lasted over 10 years? Yes, they all lasted over 10 years. And I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. This appointment is going to take longer than I thought. So I say that every employee say, okay, do you know the Social Security number of any of them? No, of course you don't. Okay, no problem. What was the person's name? Where were they born? About how old they are? And I've never not been able to find a Social Security number. So the employee finds the Social Security number, and they look at the first record and they say, oh, here's an extra $100. Second record, oh, no more money there. Third record, oh, $300. Fourth record, no money there. Oh, guess what? Number 3 is the winner. So let's go ahead and take a claim for benefits on that third ex-spouse. We need your marriage certificate and divorce decree to prove the 10 years and all that stuff. So that's how that process works. And independently entitled divorced spouse benefits. This is the government. It's got to have a long acronym, right? Independently entitled divorced spouse benefits. Your ex doesn't have to be receiving benefits for you to collect on that person's record. That's where the independently entitled thing comes in. So on my website, I've got more details there, but basically independent divorced is that person doesn't have to be collecting Social Security benefits. They just have to be at least 62 years old. They need to be eligible for those benefits. You had to be married to the person for 10 years. And the only other thing that's different on this one is you had to be divorced from that person for at least 2 years. So that's the only other difference than anything else. That's only for independently entitled divorced spouse. You had to be the final divorce for 2 years. And this is one of those things that Social Security employees, particularly people at the front windows, particularly now that, Elon Musk and Doge kicked a lot of people out of Social Security, so it's tough to get help there. This is something that a lot of Social Security employees at the front windows don't know, and they're sending people away, unfortunately. So that's why I have the reference. So the actual Social Security policy, you just click on that, you print that off, and you take it down to your local office. And that way, if they say, no, you can't collect benefits on that person's record because they're not receiving benefits yet, and you throw them that piece of paper and you say, well, you don't throw it at them. You slide it across the counter, and they will set you up an appointment. All right. Or start your claim right then and there, hopefully, and get you some extra money. All right. So what else we have? Surviving spouse. And again, if you have any questions, then make sure you ask them and I'll go through all the rest of it. So surviving spouse, you can get up to 100%. And here's another thing that people are getting incorrect information. You're wondering, I wonder if I can get any money on that ex-spouse. Let me call Social Security. So that's how you do it. You call Social Security. You can call them anytime. And if you can get through nowadays, or get through that stupid AI they have, and say, hey, I wonder if I can get any money from an ex. I was married 10 years, but your benefit amount has to be less than half of theirs. So you call up one day, or maybe someone called up last year or 2 years ago and was told, no, not eligible for benefits. And why? Were you not eligible for benefits because you didn't have the 10 years or whatever the case may be? Or was it because of the calculations? Because your benefit amount was not less than half of that person's? If that's the case, okay, at that particular day, you weren't eligible for benefits on that record. But maybe that person has made a lot more money since then. Or maybe that person has passed away. I'm going to show you a trick how to get thousands of dollars from Social Security here. And things have changed. When a spouse is out there alive and kicking, then you only get up to 50%. Your benefit amount has to be less than 50% of that particular person's. But a surviving spouse, you can get up to 100% of that person's benefit. So here's what we see a lot of. I bet you there's someone in your town, probably dozens, maybe hundreds of people in your town that were told, yeah, you can't get benefits on that person's record. And they heard that 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and they think, oh, okay, for whatever reason, I thought I did the 10 years, but I guess whatever, I don't understand. And so I guess I can never get benefits. But since then, that person has passed away, and it's no longer the 50%, now it's 100%. So I bet you if you share and like and subscribe and stuff, that teaches these dumb algorithms to send this information out to more people. So sorry for keep saying that, but anyway. So you're eligible for up to 100% for that benefit. Okay, and 100% depends on, again, how old you are when you start those benefits. If you're your full retirement age when you start surviving spouse benefits, then you get that 100% of that person's benefit amount. Actually, even more. That is called the delayed retirement credits. Before I get into that, you have options. On surviving spouse, you can choose to collect surviving spouse benefits and don't collect benefits on your record and let your own record continue to increase until 70 years old. Your benefits will continue to increase on your own record until you hit 70 years old. That's called the delayed retirement credits. 8% every year. So you collect your surviving spouse benefits, you don't touch yours, you let yours increase, or maybe you start your benefits on your own record and you don't touch your surviving spouse benefits record and you wait till that increases. But it doesn't increase after your full retirement age. It stops at full retirement age. And there's also an exception that it might actually stop sooner at 62 and a half if your spouse or ex-spouse started their benefits early. So surviving spouse benefits, there's crazy calculations there, unfortunately. And people say, okay, what if I remarry? Can I collect surviving spouse benefits if I remarry? Yes, only if you remarry after the age of 60. If you remarry before 60 and are still married, then you can't get surviving spouse benefits on that person. So if you remarry after 60, yep, you can do it. Okay, so here's a trick that quite a few people have taken. They didn't know about it. They went to the local Social Security Administration. Local Social Security Administration didn't know about it. They had to look at the policy, and people got lots and lots of money. So this is called the 2 years of back pay. So if you have, for those on TikTok, TikTok is probably going to kick me off here because they kicked me off a few days ago because I was talking about another Social Security policy that is a law, but TikTok is a foreign company, so they don't understand the American laws and the policies and the benefits, so they think it's fraud, and so TikTok is an issue, but YouTube is awesome. Here we go. Okay, so 2 years of back pay. 2 years of back pay if you were married to someone and you're eligible as a surviving spouse on that person's record. And surviving spouse is a different qualification is if it's divorce type situation, yes, you had to be married to the person for 10 years. But if you were married to that person when they passed away, then you just had to be married to that person for 9 months. There's a couple of exceptions. If the person passed away in an accident or military, then it could be under 9 months. Okay. All right. So you were married to that person and you've completely lost touch with them. And so usually it's a divorce situation, obviously. And they're out there somewhere, and unbeknownst to you, they passed away 2, 3, 4 years ago, and you didn't know about it. And now you just learn about it, and you've been eligible for benefits on that person's record for 2 years because now you're 62 years old, because you can start surviving spouse benefits at 60, not 62. So you just found out about it from a friend, whoever, and oh yeah, he or she passed away 2 years ago. You can go in the Social Security Administration and say, yeah, I want to start survivor benefits on that person's record, and I just found out that they passed away 2 years ago. Demand 2 years of back pay. And again, because DOJ kicked out a lot of the technical experts, the people with lots of experience, you really have to push on this one and say, you need to look at the POMS policy. I'll put it up in the remarks, in the description. I'll have to put it on the website as well. But you can get 2 years of back pay. And because you're going to say, hey, yeah, I've been eligible for 2 years, but I didn't know the person's passing. So they can give you 2 years of back pay, and that's helped a lot of people out. So make sure you fight for that one. Okay, another thing, delayed retirement credits. If you have a spouse that waited past their full retirement age to receive their benefits, and that spouse is still out there alive and kicking, then you don't get those delayed retirement credits. You don't get that extra benefit until that person passes away. So a surviving spouse can get those delayed retirement credits. Okay? All right, what about common law marriages? So in some states, in some years, they accept common law marriage. So it really depends on where you were living at that particular time in that particular state. Don't worry about doing the research on this. If you believe that you lived in a place, and I've got it listed on my website, which states, again, they changed the law, but Social Security has to go by the state law. So if you were holding out as a husband and wife, and you're going to have to provide proof, and don't worry about that. Social Security has it all in their policy that says, okay, if you were lived in this particular state in these particular years, that state considers you common law. You need to give proof of that. You need this, this, and this, and this, and they'll walk you through the entire process. So common law does work. What about the divorce decree? Here's one thing that we see a lot of people losing money on is they have a divorce decree And in the divorce decree, it says, you ain't getting my Social Security money. And you know how much that section of the divorce decree is worth? Nothing. Social Security doesn't care about that. Whatever pensions or whatever, that's a whole separate issue. But Social Security doesn't care about that. When they say, hey, we need your marriage certificate and a divorce decree to prove 10 years of marriage, you get them, you get the originals. Social Security needs to see the originals. So you give Social Security, not a notarized copy. Social Security doesn't recognize notary. You need it from the actual issuing agency, whatever state or county or city you got those from. So you give it to Social Security. Social Security will make the copy, certify it, and give your originals back to you. But when you do that, to prove that 10-year marriage, the person that's working your claim, they will look at just a few things. On the marriage, they'll look at the names and when you were married. On the divorce decree, they'll look at the names and when you were divorced. That's it. All that other 40 pages of divorce decree, they don't care. So if it says somewhere in there that you're not getting my Social Security, nice try, ex-spouse, or usually it's the lawyer. But yeah, doesn't work. All right. What about Medicare? So a lot of people out there that don't have health insurance, and even though they are eligible for Medicare health insurance, they say, well, I can't get Medicare because I never worked. Well, okay, you never worked and paid into Social Security, but did your spouse work and pay into Social Security? You can get money from that person, and you are eligible for Medicare based on that. So if you were a stay-at-home husband or wife or whatever the case may be, you can get Medicare and monthly benefits from that person's record. Okay, and unfortunately, Medicare starts at 65 years old unless you are receiving disability benefits. And there's also another spouse type claim. It's called the disabled widow's benefits. So if you're between the age of 50 and 59, you can collect disability based on your deceased spouse's work record, not your work record, but the deceased spouse's work record. And that is between 50 and 59. Again, surviving spouse benefits, you can get as early as 60. A lot of people out there are losing those 2 years. Stop it. Get that money. And yes, anytime you collect benefits from Social Security, it's reduced. So, but if you need money at 60 and you're saying, well, I really need money now, but I can't get it till I'm 62. No, surviving spouse benefits start at 60. Regular spouse benefits, 62. Yes. All right. There's one last one I want to talk about before I go into your questions. Auxiliary child in care. So if you have a spouse collecting retirement benefits or disability benefits, and then you have a child under the age of 16 or that became disabled before the age of 22 that is receiving benefits on that spouse's record, you could potentially collect benefits as well. It's called child in care. So you're basically, what the idea is, you are staying home or really reducing your monthly income in order to take care of that child under the age of 16. The child can get it up to 18, but child in care, the child has to be under 16 years old. So, but you're essentially not working or working very little in order to take care of that child under the age of 16 or even a disabled adult child. Disabled adult child is receiving benefits on the parent's record, and they became disabled before the age of 22. So there is another benefit that is available as well. All right, so I think we went through all of it fairly well, and there's always a million questions about it. So let's see what we've got here. And as always, the live Q&A is sponsored by our friends there at Chapter. So, Miss Froggy, I'm 51 and he passed at 57. Should I collect now or wait? I need extra income now and I have documented disability, but can work part-time. Okay, so you are in that category possibly of disabled widow's benefits. So there's a 7-year, your disability had to begin within 7 years of his passing. So you're 51. That's the only benefit that'd be eligible for you would be disabled widow's benefits. And so I would definitely check that out. DWIB, disabled widows benefits. And you can work part-time and collect disability benefits, but Social Security calls it substantial gainful activity. So if you are earning this year under $1,620, then you can collect disability. You can file for disability. So if you're earning under 1620, and what they'll do is they'll check out both situations. They'll check out how much file for disability on your own record, and then you also tell them that you have a deceased spouse, and they'll see if you're eligible for disabled widows benefits. They'll see which one is the most money for you, and then go on with the process of getting you those disability benefits. So. Let's see, Paulina, thanks so much for your important information. You are welcome. And thank you for sharing it to everybody else and making other people's life better. I have a widow who is living together, his partner for more than 30 years. Is she entitled to collect Social Security? And she is 65 years old. Yeah. You just had to be married, for 10 years. But if it's a widow type situation and if they were married when that person passed, just had to be married at least 9 months. But sounds like together for 30 years. Yeah, and it really depends on the benefit amount. You are technically eligible. She might be technically eligible for benefits on his record, but she's making more on her own. So there's that. Social Security always tries to give you the most. If they do their job right, they're always trying to give you the most amount. You say disability isn't reduced. That is correct. Can you explain? If injured at 35 and never go back to work, how figure your PIA? My spousal benefit was only 22. It makes no sense. He worked till 70 and made way more. Yeah, it's based on how much you paid into Social Security. So a lot of people think their disability is reduced because they go into Social Security or, you used to get that letter every year that says, hey, when you, get into, when you turn your full retirement age at, 66 or 67 or whatever the case may be, here's how much your benefit is going to be. It's going to be, $3,000 a month. And if you got that at 35 years old and you say, oh, my full benefit amount, unreduced is $3,000, but I just got disability, I'm only getting $800. That's because if you look at the estimate of when you're going to get 67, it says, okay, you're 35 years old now, you're making, $50,000 a year. We figure you're going to continue working, making $50,000 a little bit more every year until you're 67. So that's how they come up with that $3,000. But if you stop working, then you just lost that 20 or so years of income into your benefit amount, because they determine your benefit amount on retirement by your high 35 years of earnings. So your benefit amount is based on your work and how much you paid into it, and it's not reduced. It is what it is, unfortunately. So. But if it's under $967, then you could be eligible for SSI, Supplemental Security Income, which is a needs-based, low-income, low-resource program that Social Security also administers. So definitely check that out. Where do I find my PIA and my ex's PIA? Good question, D. Thanks. Your PIA into SSA.gov, you go in there, set up a My Social Security account, which I recommend everybody do. And you can find your full benefit amount at your full retirement age at that time. The PIA is just your primary insurance amount, the amount that Social Security uses to do all calculations, which is your full retirement age is probably 67. So if you go in there and it says at 67, you will receive $3,000. That's your PIA. So how do you find your exes? That's a little bit more difficult. Because Social Security employees aren't supposed to give out that information. But you can get the gist of it. So if you're wondering whether you're entitled to benefits on an ex, you call up Social Security and say, hey, I want to see if I can get any money off that gal or girl or gal, whatever. And you know the social? No? Okay, no problem. What's the name? How old? Where were they born? And the person will find it. And if you're currently receiving benefits or you're eligible to file, they will say, oh, okay, yeah, let's go ahead and get you set up an appointment. There's some money there. If you're not, they'll probably say, oh yeah, when the time comes, you really need to file. That means there's money there, but they They're not supposed to tell you how much that is because that's, they don't know you from, Adam, right? So if you're eligible right now, they will say, yep, we need to set you up an appointment. And then you get your marriage certificate, divorce decree. Don't wait to get that information. Just get your appointment and go to your appointment or pick up the phone when they call you. And then when you provide all the proof and you prove that you do have a relationship and you are entitled to benefits on that person's record, then they'll give you numbers, right? But yeah, they're not supposed to tell you because until you prove you have some type of relationship with that person. So, Douglas, how much does the DDS and the local field office communicate with each other? I'm in step 3 in SSDI process for 1 year. In your step, 0. Yeah, it's Social Security has nothing to do with it anymore. Well, it depends on what. Yeah, they've changed the steps. So kind of step 1 is they've reclassified the steps. The step 3 might be in quality review. In that case, Social Security, nothing. So basically what it is, you file for disability benefits. I guess they're considering that step 1. And then they do a review, and sometimes they consider that step 2. But anyway, so the local Social Security office reviews it, makes sure you're insured and you're currently insured and everything is good. And then they send it up to DDS, the Disability Determination Services. And they do a few steps, and then it might be intercepted by quality review to review that, and that's an extra step. But until the Social Security office gets your record, they're out of the picture. They don't do anything. So the medical part of it is DDS. Sometimes the DDS will send a note to the local Social Security office and say, hey, we've been trying to contact this person. Do you got any way to contact this person? It was always a dumb request. And it's like, yeah, you have all the information that we have. And if you couldn't get a hold of the person because they disappeared, then how we expect, do you want us to go out there and beat on doors or something? So, and they only communicate with the local Social Security office when they're done. When they're done, then they send it back to the local Social Security office to adjudicate the claim, either a approval or denial at that time. So there's how that process works. My ex can't file for another 10 years, but we were married 14 years. I'm collecting my Social Security. Can I get the difference when she files? If she is eligible for benefits on your record, you're seeing if you can collect benefits on her record? Yeah, if her benefit amount is twice your full benefit amount, then absolutely. Yep. But she has to file, she has to be eligible, independently entitled divorce spouse. So as soon as she turns 62, even if she doesn't file, you can go ahead and collect benefits on that person's record. So HV, the marriage license, but not the divorce decree. Okay. HV, have the marriage license. Okay. No, have the marriage certificate. A license shows that we used to get people bring this on all the time. Here's my license. Okay. Well, did the bride or the groom get cold feet at the last minute? A license just says, we give you authority to get married. Doesn't mean you got married. So it has to be the actual, you actually got married. You showed up that day. So it has to be that one. I got married in the Dallas courthouse at night, and the judge was drinking with his friend, John Wiley Price, who was the witness. Wow. That's, was the guy. Yeah, anyway, I was going to say something, but TikTok is so sensitive nowadays. Back in the 70s, things were so different. Yes, that is a fact. That is a fact. My sister is full retirement age, but still working. Does she need to do something to delay benefits, or does nothing and not requesting benefits automatically delay benefits? Well, if she is her full retirement age, she can collect Social Security benefits and continue to make $1 billion a month. Social Security doesn't care. So if she wants to go ahead and start her Social Security benefits, then more power to her. Work has no relevance whatsoever, negatively. It might increase her benefit, but it's not going to decrease her benefit. So, but maybe she's waiting for those delayed retirement credits. You know, every year she waits after her full retirement age, her benefits go up 8% every year. But make sure she doesn't wait till after the month she turns 70. We get people on here all the time. I'm 72. When should I file? 2 years ago. And unfortunately, there is no 2 years of retroactive back pay, like we were talking about early. So let's see here. And then in terms of, remember, she's working full time, so she probably has Medicare. So she probably just forgot about Medicare. Well, she didn't forget about it. She just ignored Medicare, which if she has health insurance from work, current work, that employer has 20 or more employees, then she's good with Medicare. She can just ignore Medicare too. And then when she stops working, then she has to sign up for Medicare. Does returning to homeland and giving up green card disqualify from receiving retirement benefits on record, spouse benefits and surviving spouse benefits? It really, you can go, if you're receiving benefits, if you're a U.S. citizen, you can pretty much go anywhere. If you are a green card holder, it's a little bit more complicated. You go onto my website there, click on more and click on living overseas. And then you click on this little button. Let me make sure the link is still working. The payments abroad screening tool. So it really depends. Come on, link, please work. This takes you directly to the Social Security website. And there it is, the Social Security website. And you just answer some questions. Have you been out? It takes a couple of minutes and it'll tell you for your particular status and your particular country, whether you can continue to get benefits. So again, just mygovexpert.com and click on living overseas. Oh, and I got a message in YouTube, and someone, I think he was in Thailand, and I did a video a few days ago about the new process for expats, people living overseas, to submit their I'm still alive form. And people said, no, that doesn't exist. And it's a brand new policy. It just started, a week ago. And someone in Thailand called back to the Office of International Operations and did it on the phone. Said it took about 5 or 30 minutes or something. It took 5 minutes for him to pick up, 30 minutes to complete the form, and everything was taken care of. And so yes, that new attestation thing is actually working. So thank you for that person for giving us update that the system's working. Ned, if my wife takes her Social Security early, can she still get my full benefit as long as I waited for my full retirement age? And she waits to claim survivor benefits when she reaches her full retirement age. Okay, so those are two different things. So as I talked about, if she takes her benefits early, she'll get up to 50%, but again, it's minus her full benefit amount, not how much she's receiving. So her total benefit will be reduced if she takes her benefit early. But in terms of surviving spouse benefits, it really depends on how old she is when you pass away. So there's that. So one, reduction if she starts early, the other one, not reduced depending on how old she is at that time. And one more thing I want to throw out there, it gets a little complicated, that if you have a spouse receiving benefits on your record, and then you pass away, if that spouse is full retirement age, they're automatically, it's called auto convert. They're automatically switched from just living spouse benefits to surviving spouse benefits automatically, if they are their full retirement age. Okay. So if even in the address and everything, if the address and everything is correct, then they will also get that embarrassingly terrible $255 lump sum death benefit. So if you want to leave something a little bit more for your surviving spouse than $255, you can reach out to our partners there and get a burial insurance final expense quote for free, and they'll see if one's good for you. That is so you have a living spouse receiving benefits on your record, and then you pass away. If that person is at their full retirement age, their benefits will automatically switch from 50% to 100%. And they'll also release that $255. If your addresses are, sometimes they don't catch it if your addresses are a little bit different. Like I've seen it where on the deceased, it's Main Road, and road is spelled out ROAD. But on the spouse, it's just RD. And I've seen the computer doesn't kick out that $255. So you just have to go file for that $255. Okay, but if you are under your full retirement age when your spouse passes, your benefits are suspended and you have to contact Social Security because you're under your full retirement age. If you switch to surviving spouse benefits, your benefits just might be reduced. So they want to make sure, okay, do you want to go ahead and start your benefits now, your surviving spouse benefits, or do you want to wait till your full retirement age to get the full benefit amount? So you'll have to make that election. It's called the certificate of election. So they'll suspend your benefits. And unfortunately, there's people out there that their spouse passes away and those benefits are suspended. And they just think that that's the way it should be. And they go for a few years and don't get those benefits when they really need those benefits. Once that person reaches their full retirement age, it automatically unsuspends. So if the person is, the surviving spouse is, let's say, 63 years old, the spouse passes away, those benefits are suspended at 63. And if their full retirement age is 67, it automatically unsuspends at 67. So that person just might have just lost 4 years of benefits. Sure, they're going to get more money now, but maybe they needed that money for those 4 years. So please, team, community, go out there. All the stuff you learned today, go out there and talk to people, your relatives, a little old lady, a little dude down the street, and hey, what's going on? Didn't you used to be married to this person, and weren't you eligible for this? And let's make sure everybody gets the benefits they're eligible for, because Social Security, they're so understaffed right now. They need help. And all right, Jen, if I am getting widow benefits, when can I start collecting regular benefits from my husband's Social Security? Okay, so you're getting widow benefits from another person, deceased spouse, and you remarried after 60. So you're eligible for benefits under your new husband. You can, once you're married, after a year, you can switch if there's more money, but usually because your current spouse is still living, then there's that 50% limit. So probably the widow's benefits is more. So yeah, after a year, whenever there's more money. So whenever there's more money on that new person's record, go for it. Let's see here. What about if a woman never worked, but take care of the house and children for 25 years? All right, mind, you're going to get harassed for that one. Isn't that work? I think a lot of economists have done that study. They said if people got paid for that, they would get paid, what, $150,000 a year? So you never worked outside the house, let's say. What about her Social Security and surviving spouse payments? If she divorced, woman, how she can have benefits? Yeah, as long as you were married to that person for 10 years. That's the key. You had to be married to the person for 10 years. So, and it doesn't matter whether you are entitled on your own record. You never paid into Social Security, no problem whatsoever. Were you married to someone that is eligible for benefits? Then you are eligible for benefits on that person's record. You had to be married 10 years, or again, if it's a surviving spouse, then if you were married to that person when they passed away, you just had to be married to that person for 9 months. I didn't file for it till 70. Joy. Okay. So, yeah, you got your full delayed retirement credits. So that's a beautiful thing. Can you put a section in your webpage about common law, how long you've been together, proof what you've lived? Yes, I have that. Trying to find where it is. I've got so much information on my website. I think it's on the first. Yeah, there it is right there on the very first page. So if you go into mygovexpert.com, click on family. Oh, let me take this off here. Click on family benefits. and you click on the overview. So I've got all spouse benefits, divorce spouse benefits, independently entitled divorce spouse benefits, child and care benefits, Medicare, Medicaid, all that. So there it is right there, common law. And those are the states that recognize common law as of 2025 and some that didn't. They changed it. So there it is right there. And in terms of what you need, never wait to file for benefits. Because of, for filing for disability. Well, I have a doctor's appointment next month, so after I see the doctor, I'll get that evidence, and so I can, no. Start your disability process now, because it takes forever. Start the process now, and then if you get new medical records in the future, then you can add that. Same thing if you're filing for spouse benefits, divorce spouse benefits, surviving spouse benefits. Well, no, I won't call up Social Security until I get my marriage certificate and divorce decree. And once I get all that, I get all set, then I'll go ahead and call up, set an appointment. You're going to lose money, because the day you call Social Security and say, hey, I want to file for benefits, then you're protected for that month. So if you call, it's September 10th now. If you call today, you could, if you're eligible for benefits in September, you can start your benefits in September. If you wait till you get whatever documentation October, you just lost out on September benefits because you called in October. So call. And then if you think you need something, then go ahead and get it. But keep your appointment. And then at your appointment, say, hey, yeah, I got my marriage certificate, but I'm still waiting on the divorce decree. And they'll say, all right, no problem. All right. So when you get it, let's go ahead and take the claim and everything, and I'll hold on to it until you get your divorce decree. Just keep me in the loop of, when you think it's coming. So no problem whatsoever. I have never denied people because they were trying to get their stuff. Never. But there are some employees out there that are a little too rambunctious, oh, I've been waiting 7 days for this person to provide their divorce decree and they didn't do it, so I'll just go ahead and deny it. If you ever get that, don't worry about it. They just reopen it. And then when you talk to that new person or whoever says, hey, that person is a little bit too rambunctious, they shouldn't deny claims like that for lack of evidence. So anyway, does returning, okay, I already answered that one. Please hit the like button, share, leave a comment. Yes, please. Thank you. How did you ever come up with you had to be married for 9 months before you can collect Social Security benefits? Yep, the law. Yeah, that's the law. Again, as a surviving spouse, if you were married to someone and you intended to be married to that person forever and ever, and 9 months later that person passes away, then Social Security, Congress, who wrote the law, says, yeah, we considered you, to have wanted to be married to that person forever. And even if it's under 9 months, if it was an accident or something like that. So, yep, 9 months for a surviving spouse. 9 months if you were married to that person when they passed away. Divorce is only 10 years. The 10 years is only for a divorce type situation. So if I'm collecting at 62 and my ex of 10 years passes away, am I able to convert to surviving spouse benefits? You already started your own benefits. So, but if you started your benefits within the last year, you can actually withdraw your application. You got to pay back the money and like it's never happened, and then switch to surviving spouse benefits. So is there anything on the website that explains more about 100% if ex-spouse passes away? Would the surviving spouse get 100% less what they get off their own record? Good question. Yeah, it's if you're full retirement age, you get 100% of that benefit amount. There's Windex PIAs, and there's this widow's limb, rib limb type thing that if your ex was receiving benefits very, very early, then there's different calculations. But generally, it's 100%. Okay. And would your surviving spouse get 100% less if what they got off their own record? So if your ex-spouse, if the deceased spouse was receiving disability and you're your full retirement age, you get 100% of their full PIA, their primary insurance amount. If your ex-spouse started at their full retirement age, you're going to get 100% of their full benefit amount. If your ex-spouse waited till 70, you're going to get 100% of their benefit amount plus the 24%, because surviving spouses get the delayed retirement credits. So, and if you're receiving retirement benefits, does it offset? Do you get both? No. And here's another thing. Thanks for bringing that up, San. I appreciate it. Here is what a lot of people make mistakes in, and this one really, really hurts, is you got a surviving spouse that comes into the office, and one day, last month before the person passed away, the deceased was making $3,000 a month, and the surviving spouse was making $1,500 a month from Social Security. So that's $4,500. And then when that person passes away, you don't continue to get, people, I'll just get his check, the deceased's check. Yes and no. It's yes, you will get that minus your own. So one month, you're getting $4,500. When that person passes away, the surviving spouse is going to get $3,000. So you've just lost $1,500, and that really, really hurts. So why is that? Because you do get that person's check. That person was receiving $3,000, but yours offsets that. So you get your $1,500. Technically, you're still going to get your $1,500 plus the difference of $1,500 for a total of $3,000. And that was always my worst. Anytime I took a surviving spouse claim, I was like, oh, please tell me that they know about this. And it was always heartbreaking when they said, wait a second, I thought I was going to receive that person's check, and now I'm going to get $4,500. We were, $3,000 or $2,500, and that, to pay the mortgage and the home, and I can't live on less. So please share that information. If you call Social Security and say you're asking about possible overpayment, they'll answer your call really fast. I didn't suggest telling them you were overpayment, just say possible. I called and I called. I wanted to see the new artificial intelligence, which is artificial but not too intelligent. And I asked about several things, and I asked about overpayment, and it just kept giving me the same BS speech over and over and over. Maybe you did it a different way, or maybe they upgraded the AI or something. I don't know. But yeah, I was married to my kid's dad for 12 years. He was killed 28 years ago. We have 2 adult kids. Can I draw off survivor benefits? I am remarried. My ex would be more. Can I draw off his? Okay. So yeah, you can't, there's no child and care benefits unless one of the children have become disabled before the age of 22. They can receive what's called disabled adult child benefits. But if you remarried after 60, possibly. So, but if you are married before 60 and are still married, then no, unfortunately. Tina, I'm almost 62 and I want to file for my Social Security, but I won't get the extra spousal benefit because my husband isn't drawing his yet. Can I start my Social Security and get the extra later? Remember, he doesn't have to be drawing benefits. Remember, independently entitled divorced spouse benefits. If he is at least 62 years old, so you file for benefits on your record, and if he is at least 62 years old, then you can file for benefits on his record if the calculations work, that your benefit amount is less than half of his. So let's see. I received, Annie, what's up, Annie? I received survivor benefits age 61. And when my Social Security benefit was moved in January 2025, can I go back and get my deceased husband's Social Security, which would be more than my Social Security? But you're already getting it. I received a survivor. It's from that. Is it from another spouse? Because you received, yeah. So you were already receiving surviving benefits, and then they switched it to benefits on your own record. Can you go back to the survivor? If they switch you to your own record, that means there's more on your own record. So unless maybe you didn't realize that you could continue to wait to collect benefits on surviving spouse and let your benefits continue to increase until 70. Maybe that's what you're asking. If that's the case and you already filed and everything, then you can withdraw your claim and pay back that money and then switch back to survivor benefits and then let your own benefits continue. So you can definitely try that. All right, I've got some video questions here. Got to think about 3 video questions, and let's see what we got.
Hi, it's Mike from Auburn, Washington. My question is about the tax return they used to set IRMA. For 2025, will they be looking at the tax return that was filed in 2023, which is actually for the tax year 2022, or do they look for the tax return for the tax year that was 2 years ago? Thanks.
Okay, yeah, that's the IRMA, the income-related monthly adjustment amount. That's the extra premium high wage earners pay for Medicare Part B and Part D, and they go back 2 years. So for let's say 2026, they go back 2 years. So for the year 2026, you're going to pay more for Part B and Part D if you made a high income in 2024. Whenever you filed your taxes is not really relevant. It's the 2024. How much did you make in 2024? And I'm actually going to do a video this week on IRMA and how that's calculated. Line 11 of the typical 1040, which is the adjusted gross income, and then there's a modified one where some stuff is added back in. But yeah, it's 2 years. So for 2026, they will look at how much you made in 2024. So obviously for 2024, you filed your taxes in 2025, but they're going to look at 2024. So that's how that works. But remember, if your situation has changed, it's called a life-changing event that you have no longer earning. Let's say in 2024, you made a few $100,000, and that's why you're getting the extra premium. But since then you've stopped working, then you file an SSA 44, a life-changing event form to get that reduced. No longer have to pay the
Hello,
extra.
Dr. Ed. My name is Alien. I'm from California. I am I receive DIC and survivor's benefits since December 6, 21. My husband was in the military for 8 years. He was also disabled due to the military. He's only receiving $1,100 through from unemployment, from Social Security. I was just wondering, should he receive more? They would not allow me to see his records and how much he made. However, he did get his 40 credits. Just wanting to get more information. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, it's always difficult to confirm if you're receiving survivor benefits or, divorce spouse benefits. It's always difficult to confirm whether, the primary insurance amount, the calculations on that person's record is correct or not, because Social Security is very cagey about, giving out that private information, even when the person is deceased. But if you fight for it, you can get it. But then the question is, Social Security determines the benefit amount by the high 35 years of earnings. So if the person was 8 years in the military, I was in the Marine Corps for 8 years, and I know you get paid crap in the military. So that's really going to $1,100. That sounds about right. But it really depends on what other type of work he did after that. So he worked for 10 years, but that's fine. But if you only work for 10 years, then he's got 25 years of zeros there, and that really brings the benefit down. So if you disagree with anything Social Security, Medicare, Medicare Advantage, whatever the case may be, Medicaid, fight. And so in this particular case, if you think the calculations are incorrect, and that, again, what it's based on is his earnings record. So if you think his earnings record is incorrect, that's the difficult part is like they might not want to show you. You might have to fight a little bit to see his earnings record. But once they show you his earnings record, do you know how much he made in every particular year to be able to confirm that? So that's the issue. But you can appeal and say, hey, I want someone else to take a look at this and see if there's any more money out there, whether the calculations were done right. But if everything shows up on his earnings record, then that's how the computer calculates the earnings. So if there's something wrong there that, he actually worked in, 1987 and those earnings are not there, then you're going to have to go out there and find those earnings for 1987 and have them assign that to his record, which is another battle. So, all right, I think you got one more video question here.
Hi, Dr. Ed. My question is about Social Security Part B premium. In my Social Security account, it shows that my Part B premium is saying $25. However, Medicare sent me a bill for $555, which is $185 for the first 3 months, starting October when I will turn 25. I'm curious to know why there's a discrepancy in those billings.
Okay, so yeah, that sounds, that's not your Part B premium. That is something else. And that something else could be one of two things. So that is either your Part D prescription drug plan premium. So if you're signed up for, if you also, you signed up for Medicare, you probably, if you're getting charged for a Part D, then you signed up for a Medicare supplement plan, an N or a G, and then you got a separate Part D plan, and that's your premium for the Part B, for the Part D, the prescription drug plan, and they normally take that out of your Social Security check. Or if you signed up, let's say, for a Medicare Advantage plan, or even a Medicare supplement plan, and it's your Part D is zero premium, but you were late signing up for Medicare, that $25 might be your late penalty for delaying signing up for Medicare Part D. I don't think it's for Part B, because that would probably, it's 10%, $185 would be $1,850. So that's probably not it. It's probably you were 2 years late, possibly, signing up for Part D, or it's the Part D. So it's probably, I'm 99% sure it's Part D related. So there's that. It's not your Medicare Part B, as in boy. All right. So come back here later and tell us whether I was right. Contact Social Security and say, hey, what's the deal with this $25? The only other thing, it could be an overpayment or child support, a garnishment or something like that. But yeah, that doesn't sound like it's that. All right, that's it for today. I appreciate you all sharing and liking and subscribing and doing all that good stuff. And if you need help with Medicare, now's the time. Remember, this month is when, if you're on a Medicare Advantage or a Part D plan, you're getting your annual notice of change. It's going to talk about all the changes for 2026. So this is a crazy, crazy year. Bunch of changes. The insurance companies are in their margin phase, where there's two phases. Their expansion. They're trying to get new people to sign up. They're no longer in that phase. They're in their, we want to make as much money as we possibly can on each person. So if we can reduce this person's Medicare plan for 2026 and they don't check, then we're going to make more money. But we're smarter than those guys, and we're going to check. So you can reach out to Chapter, and they can help you check. And you can change your plan from October 15th to December 7th. You got a month or so there to change it, and your new plan will start January 1st. So other than that, I'll be back again tomorrow and answer a lot more questions. If I didn't get to your question today, I apologize, but come on back and we'll do it. Or you notice I love those video questions. So you go onto my website, mygovexpert.com, click on the little camera on the bottom left and record a video. I always answer those if your audio works. All right, y'all take care, and please, 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 please take care of each other. Bye-bye.